Flaming horses, flaming dead guys, and flaming dragons. Will the kid who would be king also go down in flames? Like the Fire Festival? That and more on this episode of The Real Review, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. Everybody, I'm here with Joel Cheese Sandwich Cunningham.
Ooh, do you have one?
No.
Oh.
They did at Fire Festival.
They did have one at Fire Festival. That actually ties into my nickname for you, and that is Matt still waiting for his passes to Fire Festival.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm assuming here we both saw the same documentary.
We just watched
on
the Fire documentary on Netflix, which is highly entertaining, by the way.
It's like watching a slow-moving train wreck that you can't look away from.
You're like, I can't, like, this is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
But I need to watch it all the way to the edge.
Yeah. And there's so many, it's sad, but it's funny, and it's ridiculous to watch the people that get so wrapped up into this idea and are just like literally going to break laws and do all this horrible stuff, and they're like, but it's for the Fire Festival,
right?
You know, and now they're like, I was such an idiot.
Oh my gosh.
It's a good movie.
Oh my gosh.
It's a good movie. I definitely suggest it.
I like it. It's entertaining. It's not for kids, obviously. It's very rated R on the language side of things. And, but it is well done and informative and apocalyptic in nature.
I'll tell you what, and this will be the last thing I'll probably say about it. I've been to a number of conventions for like comic book stuff and like geek culture, and I feel like there's probably a few of those conventions that were on the border of being that.
Right.
You know, because it's like they like, really? This is what we're walking around, and like there's like 2 booths and they charge like $50. Yeah.
Anyways, today we're going to be talking about The Kid Who Would Be King, but first let me break it down for you, the real review. The way that it works is Joel's maybe a little bit more analytical, negative, and pessimistic in the way that he approaches films and stuff like that.
I was going to argue with that, but then I'm like,
and critical and all that stuff.
Guy,
and then, you enjoyed our negative review episode, our top worst 10.
No, I hated it.
You loved it. Anyways, I may be a little bit more positive, overlooking of some things in favor of being moved emotionally or having fun.
Yeah.
Like panic.
I'm still recovering from that negative review.
Right. So I keep using Escape Room as my most recent like guilty pleasure. It's kind of not really a good movie, but I did enjoy it. It's like,
I kind of want to see it.
It's not really a good movie, but I did enjoy it. So, guilty pleasure. Anyways. So how can people get connected, Joel?
Some ways to get connected. We have our website, realreviewmedia.com. Additionally, we have our Facebook, which is facebook.com/realreviewmedia, where we're always posting cool content, trailers, and contests, which we have some news about. We'll give in just a moment, correct?
Yes.
Additionally, we have Facebook and Instagram, or we have Instagram and Twitter, which are both at Real Review Media. And then last but not least, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners, realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Perfect. Okay, so big news. A couple weeks ago, Joel and I launched a contest on Facebook and Instagram for a chance, national within Phoenix, yes,
within the greater Phoenix metropolitan area.
The winner was to basically gets to go to the movies with Joel and I, and we're actually going to go see Captain Marvel opening weekend, and you get to go see that with us. We will pay for your ticket, we will pay for your concessions, and it'll just be a grand old time, and we can debate the movie afterwards.
Yeah.
But yes, we did actually
pull our winner.
We got a winner. We pulled the winner name from the hat.
So congrats to you, Megan
Fishback.
Yeah,
you are the winner. Congratulations for being such a loyal Real Review participant, listener, and patron.
Yeah, and I will just say lastly again, we've kept saying this, but thank you all to listeners and supporters and people that have been fans and listening and sending questions and everything like that on the podcast. We're loving it. We really enjoy it, and we love that back and forth we get with you as well, and ways to give back to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Listening. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Hopefully one of these we'll get one of these LaCroix sponsors coming through and we can do a real big contest.
Exactly. So Megan, get ready. We're going to go see Captain Marvel all together on March 8th, that weekend at least. Sometime 8th, 9th, or 10th. One of those days. Anyways, here we go. Today we're going to kind of have a shorter review, but we're going to be talking about The Kid Who Would Be King. And let me kind of break that down for you. A band of kids embark on an epic quest to thwart a medieval menace. That's such a high-level, generic synopsis. I feel like IMDb needs to work on their descriptions a little bit.
Rotten Tomatoes does better a lot of times,
Yes.
but they're too long.
Yes,
many times.
exactly.
It's like a paragraph.
I know. So this is starring Louis Ashbourne's Circus, Denise Guff, Dean Camaro, Tom Taylor, Rihanna Doris, and a number of other people.
Yep, and directed by Joe Cornish.
Yes, exactly. So this is an interesting movie. It's positioned to be a kid's film. It's rated PG.
Oh, of course, Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. Yes, we don't forget him.
Don't forget Patrick Stewart.
Wait, what's the
our famous poop emoji man from the Emoji
Young
Movie.
Merlin, Angus Emery. I want to make note of that right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, this movie's PG, geared towards kids. And just to kind of start right off here, I thought the movie was all right.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it started off strong. I was intrigued. I liked a lot of the visuals. At least in the beginning, there was a moment like in between the second and third acts where I felt like it just dragged and it was too long.
Yeah.
But I thought it ended on kind of a fun Home Alone-esque high note.
Yeah.
But I will say this. This I feel like this movie's really pushing the boundaries for a PG rated film.
Agreed.
I was very surprised at some of the stuff they had in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wouldn't take my 5 or 7-year-old to see this movie. I don't know. Like, I feel like they would be
some of the scary scenes.
There were some really scary
perilous-
images. Yeah.
Perilous moments. Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my overall kind of initial take. How about you, Joel?
I had no like idea of what to expect going into this film. I didn't watch any of the trailers. I had heard very little about it. Kind of we're in the milieu of bad films is kind of the beginning of the season for it. And so this, I think, is kind of falling into that. But it was getting good reviews. That was one thing I saw.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, it's probably the best option that's out there.
Yeah.
And I was perplexed by this film. I, at first, kind of where you were at, I thought it started off okay.
Yeah.
Like I was on board with where it was going.
I was kind of like into the story.
Yeah, I was like, all right, kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then right around the moment where he finds the sword and just the context of finding the sword and how that worked, I was like, okay, they're cutting some corners here. And then after that, it just proceeded to be me, like a ridiculous moment after ridiculous moment. And I'm going to say this in the get-go, I probably did not approach this film correctly.
Okay.
Because I think if I was a kid approaching this film as like in a childish mindset, I would have been able to overlook so much of this film that I ended up like, it was just me and one other person in the theater. It was completely empty.
Right.
I was laughing out loud. I'm literally like, this is the most ridiculous, silly, over the top, like dumb thing. And that's kind of where I ended with it, is that it was just really ridiculous and stupid. And I haven't decided yet if that's like they did it on purpose or if it kind of just became that way due to the story.
So here's the thing. You know how there's a lot of conversation about that movie was made PG-13, but you could tell it was originally supposed to be rated R. You know, I feel like that was with this movie. It was really supposed to be a PG-13 film,
but cut down to
PG.
They cut
down to PG.
I would agree.
And it felt weird to me. Like I went with my friend. I was like, hey, this is weird. We were the only two people in the theater.
Yeah.
And it bombed opening weekend, by the way.
Okay.
And that was the first time I've ever been in just a me in someone else in the theater situation. There's always been like one or two other people just struggling in late night theaters, but it was weird. But I think it loses its way a little bit. All my favorite stuff and it was a little over the top, but a lot of my favorite stuff was the cheesy stuff with young Merlin and old Merlin and that stuff. I enjoyed that stuff a lot.
It was so weird to have Patrick Stewart suddenly appear, and that didn't even make sense. But but I was like, oh well, they got Patrick Stewart. I feel like they wanted to use him.
Right. I liked the kid who played young Merlin. I thought I appreciated him. Yeah,
he was funny, except the ridiculous hand motions.
I thought that was so funny. I like that. I left the movie trying to do ridiculous hand motions.
I was doing it as a joke during the movie. I was like, oh yeah, blah, 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 yeah. I mean, there was so many.
That was funny.
Yeah, and that funny. I made a call. It was like the funniest thing. Like later, as soon as Merlin showed up and he did like the multiplication thing, I was like, why doesn't he just do that with some money? And then like later in the film that happens, and I was like, hey, look, I called
there it goes.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
that's good.
Spoiler.
No, so there is like I think this is my biggest problem with this movie, and I think it's because I'm a dad, is that it's too intense for a PG film, and I don't know how it's there's like this dragon witch lady, whatever, and replayed by Rebecca Ferguson, and she does this like creepy, like Grudge, or like The Ring. She crawls like Samara does in that movie.
Yeah,
super creepy. And then they have this dragon in the face. Even the animation at the beginning, I was like, ooh, that's kind of scary.
I think that was the biggest thing. Visually, it was almost horrific at times in style.
Yeah,
but tonally, or not even tonally, story-wise, it felt like a kid's film.
Yeah.
But like tone and visuals felt very strongly like adult PG-13 rating.
Like even the first time you see like the undead guy come out of the ground and like walk in the house, I was like, dang, this is an intense scene.
Yeah.
And that was, I was just like, wow, my kids couldn't watch this. They're going to have nightmares.
Yeah.
And I was just very surprised by what they put in it and how they kind of did that. I don't know what the thinking was around it, but I liked it from my perspective. I was like, that's cool. I like to see that because for me, that makes things more intense and makes me buy in a little bit more.
Those scenes in particular.
Yes, exactly. The one thing I felt like this movie struggled with was its humor. There were so many times I was like, oh, they could have played that for a joke right there, but they didn't. Or they played it for a joke, but it wasn't delivered right, or like the timing was off.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem like, I don't know if Joe Cornish doesn't have a knack for editing funny sequences or not, but
there's a timing thing that was way off. I think reactions as well, as like the reactions of the kids were way off.
Right.
They felt, except for young Merlin, most of them felt very limited in their ability to kind of emote these different things.
Mm-hmm.
Usually kid actors, and this is not to be like generalizing, but I am going to generalize a little bit here. Most kid actors, and the way you can tell a good or a bad kid actor is because of this. Most kid actors can emote a single emotion very well. Like they can be mad, they can be sad, they can be happy. Like they can do that that one emotion, like their entire character. A really good kid actor is going to be able to emote all different kinds. Like if you want a really good example of that, watch Sixth Sense.
Yeah. Haley Joel
Osment in that. I mean, here's the moments where he's like terrified, where he's like laughing and he's crying and he's sad. There's like so many emotions that he can do well in that. In this movie, it's like each of the kid has like one emotion that they have access to. One, it was either anger or like contempt or sadness. And it just, because of that, I never really related and connected to the children very much.
Yeah.
And then additionally, I felt like, and this is because it's a kids movie, so they do this, it's not an excuse, but it's like the reason for it is, the motivations of the kids was so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And it was so simple. It was like, it would just, as soon as they kind of reached their conclusion of that motivational story arc, I was done with their character.
There's one element of the movie that I liked that I don't feel like they explored as much and went as deep with. And it kind of was at one of the points where I felt like the movie was getting too long. I actually thought the movie was over, and then they like were like, here's this other like 20 to 30 minute segment afterwards. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But
and I was done. Like I said, at that point, I was like done with the character.
Yeah.
Like I felt like he had reached his satisfying emotional conclusion. It's like they wanted to have just one big action romp at the end. And the problem with that last action romp was it was cool in concept, but it was so outlandish in like how it actually was applied and worked out. And again, I know it's a kid's movie. It's supposed to be outlandish, but it's like, how would this ever in any way work out this way?
Right.
Like not 1,000, but like 10 to 20 kids at least would be dead right now.
Right, exactly. I know. Like,
I was like,
that could have been way more horrific.
Yeah, and if they didn't kill any kids, then this is literally an issue that the police could have resolved, you know, or like some special force group or something like that. So, yeah.
Anyways, other than that, I thought the humor was lacking. They didn't do very well. There's like, I was literally creating scenarios in my head. Oh, if they would have done this, it would have been hilarious, but it just didn't happen. Other than that, I did like the theme. I wanted to finish that thought. I did like the theme of like winning over your enemies. And I've been watching the show on TV where the guy does this a lot. And it's almost like convicting to a sense where like, okay, like that's really like how real leadership is. And I was like, man, I want to be like that. The movie just doesn't hit at home. It doesn't hit at home. I feel like it was just kind of blasé in the way it presents that idea.
If you want like an adult, simple action movie that you can just turn your brain off to, or like a young adult simple action movie you can just turn your brain off to, then this is an okay film for that.
Yeah.
But I didn't get anything really from it emotionally. I didn't feel like encouraged, inspired.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like I went anywhere with the characters except
Thought it
minor.
was over. Yeah, it didn't do well.
I mean, just minorly with Alex, who's like the main character. I kind of got where he was going, but his motivation, his through line was kind of resolved before the end of the film, way before, like before the final act even, and then the rest of it was just like added cake.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What are you gonna rate it?
I actually give this one a 69%.
Okay, not too far. I'm gonna give it a 70.
Okay.
70%. So a C minus.
Yeah, D plus.
Anyways. Let us know what you guys thought about The Kid Who Would Be King. I'm conflicted because I thought it was okay on the positive side.
Yeah.
Like it would be potentially, I guess, would that be fresh? Yeah.
Yeah. Right now it's rated fresh, both audience and critic score.
Right.
And I'm really I would love to get some added input from other people that have seen it. I really feel like it's because not a lot of people have seen the film. I think it's legitimately because there's just like nobody that's going to see it. And so the ratings from people are counting for a lot more for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, anyways, that's actually gonna. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No.
That's going to wrap up today's show, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Again, reach out to us at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Real Review Media, also youtube.com/The Real Review. And send us questions at our email.
Let us know what you thought of the movie.
Let us know what you thought of the movie. And if you really want there to be a sequel, which I don't think will happen because it bombed at the box office. And again, congratulations to Megan Fishback, and we'll probably have another contest like that here in the near future.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that, and have an amazing day. And Joel, anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Well, it's been real.
It's been real.